Originally charged with sexual assault on a child, Andrea Serrano is avoiding prison time. She struck a deal, pleading guilty to incest only. The boy's mother is upset with that deal because police say Serrano gave birth to a child she conceived with the 13-year-old. In May of last year, Fountain police claim Serrano admitted to them she was drunk when she had sex with the 13-year-old boy in her car.
What if the argument could be made that he was 13 and he actually raped her because she was drunk, and since she was drunk, maybe she couldn't give consent, so he actually took advantage of her.
So basically the premise of the story is this was a teacher, or maybe not his teacher, but she was a teacher, but also his legal guardian. And so somehow she got drunk in the car and he was in the car and things happened. And so now there's a 2-month-old baby that's involved in this whole situation. She got off, and I don't know what the charges are, but she was charged for one thing, but then she got off, so she's not doing any jail time. On the outskirts, does she look guilty? Does she look guilty to you?
I think that's disgusting. And it's even worse that she was his guardian. That's almost like his mother.
But what if she said she was drunk and he took advantage of her?
I don't know that he would have taken advantage of her. I mean,
he's a 13-year-old boy. 13-year-old boys are a little frisky at that age.
I mean,
curious.
he might have started something, and she just might
want to be starting something.
Right.
31-year-old Fountain woman who police say had sexually assaulted a 13-year-old boy is avoiding prison time.
Prosecutors offered her a plea deal even after she gave birth to a baby conceived with the teen. The mother of that boy is furious about the deal.
Martin Heather, Andrea Serrano pleaded guilty to an amended charge of incest, though the 13-year-old boy's mother says that they have absolutely no relation. She said she objected to this plea deal when the DA's office showed it to her. Still, it didn't matter, and it appears Serrano is going to avoid prison time.
Son had been a little girl, and this had been a 31-year-old man. They would be seeking incarceration, which they are not. And I don't think that they realize that, boy or girl, this is going to follow him for the rest of his life.
So do you think it would have been different if it had been a guy versus a young female? And probably yes. Probably the guy would probably be in jail, no matter what the circumstances are. And so, but I don't know. Do women just get away with more things?
Did you just ask me a question and then answer it for me and then move on?
Yeah, I did. So what's your answer to the last question? I give it this rhythm and flow.
Well, I was going to agree with you anyway, yes.
Yes, what?
I think that it totally would have been different if he was the older person and she was the younger girl. But it's funny that his mom has something to say about it. Like, where the hell was she? And why is she not his guardian?
That's what I'm saying. There's multiple layers to the story. So why, like you said, why was he not with his mom? Yeah. And so there's a lot of information in this story that I don't know, and I'm not even sure if this information is out there. And so this story has multiple levels. Regardless of that part, this is still wrong on so many levels.
Correct.
But when you get into the legal aspect of things, there are plea deals that are made, and plea deals do make the general public upset because they're like, this seems clearly wrong. Mm-hmm. But when you get into lawyer speak, and this is what we're about to hear, we're about to hear some lawyers speak here, it does kind of get a little dicey.
I don't think that this woman is a woman who belongs in prison. You have to allow for the idea that we can be outraged and we can be disgusted and we can condemn the behavior of this woman, the defendant. But that does not necessarily mean that the only solution is prison. We have too many Americans in prison. Is that what we want? Do we want to perpetuate the racism and the misogyny and the wrongness of our criminal legal system that has plagued minorities and women for so many hundreds of years? Do we
see? He is fiddling that violin. That violin, he is strumming the hell out of that violin. But if you listen to this and she's sitting over there, she's got her head down, she's looking sad, and she's, would you really want to part a mother with her child? And so, hey, this is part of the legal defense that goes into some things. And these are things that people don't see sometimes. And you see it in the newspaper, you see it on TV, and you're like, I can't believe that she got off. But I don't know. What do you think? The first part of his defense, what do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know what the kid's position was in the whole thing, like what you said, but
on
I mean,
top.
she,
On top.
whatever. But she was a school teacher. She stepped into.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't know if she was actually a school teacher. They just
Oh.
said teacher. And honestly, I don't know if that's been confirmed that she's a teacher.
Ah.
So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I was just thinking, like, she does have a small child, which, I mean, anybody can have a child. But if she is a teacher and she is, you know, took that child in when his mom maybe wasn't able to take care of him, then, I mean, I'm not saying she should get away with what she did, but I'm saying that, you know, one mistake doesn't really define who you are as a person.
And see, this is one thing that's not going to be on here, but the lawyer did also go into that. He said, you know, her criminal past would actually have to be looked at too. Is that, did she have any other criminal indiscretions in her past before this one right here?
Why did this woman do this? Why was this child in her custody? Hey, did she have a backup trial strategy to declare that he raped her? Grape is legally defined as the penetration of the female sex organ by the male sex organ. In other words, by definition, you cannot grape a man.
So,
That is not true.
no. Legally is what he's saying by definition.
Because
Legally.
rape is penetration. Grape, sorry.
Legally. So are the laws set up against men at that point in time? Legally.
Probably from back in the day, they were. They probably were.
So here's the thing. This is where things started getting interesting. This is just a different angle that could be presented in the courtroom.
And she's apparently now the mother of a 2-month-old infant. That all plays into it. You know, she was drunk and he penetrated her.
Oh, come on. He being a child, though, a child.
A child who is legally unable to give consent. But you wouldn't deny that a 13-year-old male is able to commit the offense of rape.
Can a 13-year-old boy actually commit, what you would say, grape? Can a 13-year-old boy actually commit rape? Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of things in there. How did her clothes get off? Because if you're in a car, a car is a tight
isn't
space.
that term, isn't that like where it's when something's forced upon somebody and there's not consent?
But what he's saying is that can a 13-year-old boy
I mean,
actually
they can,
consent?
but that doesn't sound like that's what this was. It sounds like it was consensual. I don't know who started it, but it seemed like they were both on board with it.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying is that a minor cannot consent to that type of act. And so what her turnaround be is that I was drunk and he took advantage of me. Now, the thing is for me
A
is
minor
that
can consent, maybe not legally, but
that's what I'm saying. So by legal court is what I'm understanding. Legally, a minor cannot consent to that, so it's illegal. It's like this.
So wait a second. So why is R. Kelly in jail for all of these years?
All right, let's stick on topic because I don't know about that one.
Okay.
This 13-year-old cannot consent to any act with someone that is of age.
Okay.
I'm assuming is what is being said.
Correct. I was.
So he is capable of the crime. And Colorado law, just like many other states, including Georgia, Colorado law says when you have intercourse with someone who is legally intoxicated, unable to give their own legal consent, then you have committed a grape.
I mean, do you know that she was legally intoxicated?
I don't know. And that's one of
Does
the things.
anybody know?
And no, I'm not, and that's one of the things that I don't know.
I mean, she could say. I mean, it's
She could.
easy. I would say 90% of females that get caught doing something they weren't supposed to do say they were drunk.
But here's the thing.
But were they really drunk?
That's one of the reasons why I think they said that they can't really press charges on the case because there's so many blurred lines. I don't know the legal term for it, but there's so many blurred lines because, yes, she's claiming that she was drunk. And was she passed out drunk? Was she drunk to the point where she couldn't consent? It almost seems like the minor is wrong in either way because legally, a drunk person can't consent to something. Can't consent to that. Legally, the 13-year-old can't consent to
But the
sexual
13-year-old
act.
was in a car with this person. Could have been parked, but
I am with you, but
if they were in the house, I'd say there's a possibility that she drank, she passed out, she got raped. But in a car, I mean, unless there was people in the house and they went outside, but again, that's premeditated.
But by the law is what you can prove. It's not all these gray areas. If you can't prove it by a
Right, and I don't know if it's every state. Well, no, it's probably not. But I know, like here, it has to be unanimous. Like a defendant can sit there and not say a word.
So I don't know if this was a jury thing, but I think she did do a plea deal. She pleaded to something different from what the charges were. She pleaded to something different than what the charges were.
Or maybe the other one offered the plea deal, knowing that not everybody on that juror was going to side with the plaintiff.
Hey,
If they all don't, then she gets off scot-free.
whenever you have things like this, you have to really wait until the verdict. Face value, looking at this, guilty. But when you get into a court in law, like there's laws and there's arguments that you have to follow.
Oh, did y'all see what he did? Oh, did y'all see what he did? See, these damn criminal defense attorneys. Listen to what he did, because I'll be honest, I didn't consider this.
There's a lot of court cases that are public now. And I think the problem is that a lot of times when you're looking at something from face value and you don't know the law, and regular citizens like us and other people don't know the laws in and out. And when you don't know the laws in and out, and you haven't been seasoned to argue these laws and to know the particulars of these laws, like some of these lawyers do, is that you don't understand is that, listen, somebody may actually be guilty to the T and look guilty to the T, but it's what you can prove without a reasonable doubt. And so I don't think that we do a lot of justice with ourselves with a lot of these things being public, especially some of these really bad cases, especially when it deals with racial stuff and different things like that. When these things are put out in the public court of opinion, and then they go sideways from what it looks like to the public, and the public, and the public is already like, this is just plain as day. This person is guilty. Yeah. Yes, in the public sphere, but when you get into the court of law, it is what you can prove.
Morally, it's
I mean, it can be morally, it can be morally wrong. It could be all these other things, but legally
is different than morally.
What lines does it cross legally that they can not just say but prove without a reasonable doubt? I think she's guilty. There's no reason she should have been in that circumstance to begin with. There's no reason that if you have a minor in your custody, that you should be drunk in the car with them, doing whatever, no matter what. Because even if she was trying to drive to get somewhere, you're drunk with a minor in the car. I'm on the guilty side. What side are you on? I think she's guilty.
Are they still together?
I don't know, man.
He probably wasn't even allowed to sign the birth certificate. Raising that baby as his brother. Totally, she sounds guilty.